Stop. Listen. Pay attention. Chosen one, this is not background noise. This is not a passing thought you can brush aside. There is a weight in the air around you, a tension that has been pressing quietly, almost invisibly. Yet it has reached a point where it demands acknowledgement. You have felt it, the fatigue that lingers despite rest, the pressure that seems to squeeze from every direction, the isolation that no one else could quite explain. It is real. And it is intentional that you are hearing this message now. Chosen one. Do not misinterpret this urgency. There is no threat here, no reason for alarm. What is pressing upon you is not meant to break you. It is meant to clarify something long overlooked. For months, perhaps years, you have navigated life carrying burdens no one asked you to hold. You've moved through moments of confusion, decisions that felt heavier than they should, and nights when clarity seemed impossibly distant. All of this has a pattern, a purpose, and it is tied directly to who you are. You may have noticed that certain pressures arrive repeatedly in forms subtle enough to go unnoticed by anyone else. There were times you felt the edge of frustration, the inexplicable drain of energy, and the creeping doubt that lingered when nothing around you warranted it. You may have assumed it was circumstance, chance, or your own limitations. But the truth is this: these moments were not random. They were signals precisely placed, and they have always intersected with your path in ways that others would neither see nor understand. This message is for you personally. It is tailored to the life you have lived, to the challenges only you have encountered, and to the quiet victories that have never been acknowledged by anyone else. You are hearing this because the circumstances you have endured have reached a point of alignment with an unseen clarity. There is a pattern here, a logic to what has seemed like chaos. You will not be told everything at once, and you do not need to understand it fully yet. What you must know now is that your presence, your endurance, and your subtle attention to what surrounds you have not gone unnoticed by reality itself. Chosen one. Prepare to recognize the invisible framework that has shaped your days. What you have experienced, the pressure, the tension, the isolation, is part of a structure that has tested stability over performance, coherence over reaction. There is no exaggeration here, no hyperbole, only observation. And in the coming moments, this message will begin to explain what you have lived through, why you remained upright, and why the subtle decisions you made, often unconsciously, have mattered far more than you could have imagined. Take a breath now. Center yourself. There is no rush beyond this present moment. The clarity that follows is intentional. It is delivered carefully because what you are about to understand requires steady attention, not haste. And chosen one. This is exactly why you have been waiting, why you have persisted, and why you are ready for what comes next. This message is personal. It is deliberate. It is designed to meet you precisely where you are, in the tension, in the quiet, in the moments that seem to have no witness. And now, chosen one. It is time to receive what has been quietly aligning toward you. Chosen one. Listen closely, because this is where the ambiguity ends. This is where the message stops being for anyone else and begins being for you alone. You have carried circumstances that would overwhelm many. Yet here you are, still present, still coherent, still navigating life with a subtle steadiness that has not required fanfare or recognition. The truth is that your identity has been operating beneath the surface, quietly defining the way you move through challenges, even when your conscious mind doubted itself. You are the chosen one, not because of titles or acclaim, but because the very structure of your being is calibrated to maintain balance in the midst of pressures others would collapse under. It is not something you activate consciously. It has been with you from the beginning, a baseline of inner resistance, an automatic capacity to absorb and regulate forces that are otherwise destabilizing. You may have felt confused by your ability to remain functional when others around you faltered. That was your identity, silently asserting itself. Consider the moments when doubt crept in or fear seemed plausible. You may have questioned decisions, hesitated under pressure, or felt a weight pressing inward. Yet despite these moments, your life did not derail. You continued step by step, action by action. The difference is subtle, and it often escapes notice. You do not merely react to circumstance, you maintain a baseline coherence that holds even as external factors fluctuate wildly. This automatic resistance is not something you need to summon. It is simply part of who you are. What happened in your life involved you directly. No one else could have walked this path with the same outcome. No pattern could be replicated without your presence, your choices, your quiet endurance. The events, the pressures, the moments of isolation, they were calibrated with you in mind. And because of this, you remained intact in ways that feel ordinary, but are profoundly uncommon. You did not have to fight, not in the traditional sense. Your stability was never contingent on effort alone. It was anchored in the very framework of your being. This is not a call to pride. It is a call to recognition. Recognition of the fact that your endurance, your coherence, and your subtle capacity to maintain presence are real. They are measurable in the outcomes you have survived, the continuity of your actions, and the subtle authority of your choices. They are part of your identity, not something borrowed or borrowed temporarily from circumstance. Chosen one. As you hear this, allow yourself to acknowledge it without judgment. This message exists to make plain what you may have suspected but never fully understood. The strength you have relied on unconsciously is your own. It is reliable. It is inherent. It is quietly persistent. And it has carried you through pressures, decisions, and moments that would have unsettled nearly everyone else. Now recognize that this foundation is not abstract. It manifests in your daily decisions, your steady presence, your capacity to remain coherent when life intensifies unexpectedly. This is the truth. What you call struggle, confusion, or challenge has met a system built to endure, not to falter. And because of that chosen one, you are already prepared for the explanations that will follow, ready to see your life with clarity and positioned to integrate understanding without destabilization. Chosen one. Focus on one thing you have likely felt countless times, but never fully understood: that persistent heaviness, that subtle tension in your body, the weariness that cannot be attributed to sleepless nights or long days alone. You may have believed it was a flaw, a limitation, or simply you being tired again. But that perception is incomplete. What you have been experiencing is not weakness, it is a signal. It is a physiological and emotional marker of transition, an indicator that the structure of your life, your priorities, and your inner being are shifting even when circumstances appear unchanged. Think of the way pressure works, invisible, persistent, quietly aligning energy until it reaches a threshold that triggers awareness. That threshold is what you have been brushing against repeatedly. Your body notices first the subtle tightness in your chest, the fatigue in your muscles, the restless racing of thought. Your mind follows, trying to interpret it, often mislabeling it as stress, confusion, or indecision. But these sensations are not arbitrary. They are indicators, carefully coded, signaling that your environment, your responsibilities, and your inner world are in alignment for transformation. This signal does not judge. It does not care whether you feel ready. It simply registers what is happening. And here is what is important: you have responded without collapsing. You may have thought your responses were ordinary, but they were not. You have remained functional, present, and capable even as internal and external pressures sought to disrupt equilibrium. This is the mark of someone whose baseline stability is inherently adaptive. It is subtle, but profoundly reliable. Your emotional reactions, the irritation at small delays, the impatience with inefficiency, The weight of repeated responsibility, these are not flaws to be corrected. They are evidence that your nervous system and your emotional framework are finely attuned to forces that often go unnoticed by others. You have been absorbing, processing, and stabilizing without conscious recognition of the mechanism. And this is why, even when the sensations felt disruptive, your life continued. You were not reacting chaotically. You were recalibrating continuously, maintaining integrity under conditions most would find disorienting. Now connect this to your daily experience. The subtle signals, the headaches, the lingering fatigue, the emotional sensitivity are not random. They are markers of an ongoing process, signaling that you are entering a phase where your innate resilience will be increasingly visible, even if the forces around you remain invisible. These are thresholds, not obstacles. They are checkpoints, not barriers. Chosen one. Remove the judgment. Remove the self-criticism. Understand that what has been interpreted as struggle is in fact an ongoing report of your strength. These signals confirm your alignment, your capacity to endure, and your ability to maintain coherence when life presents its quiet yet persistent pressures. The sensation is not an error. It is a reflection of your readiness, an announcement that you have been positioned to respond with steadiness and clarity. Chosen one, now. It is time to acknowledge what has been operating just beyond your conscious perception. The invisible pressures that have intersected your life with deliberate timing. These forces are not random, and they are not without structure. They move with subtle coordination, aligning around your routines, your decisions, and your moments of stillness. You may have noticed that challenges often arrive in clusters, that moments of tension appear synchronized with your milestones, or that resistance seems to escalate precisely when clarity or progress is required. This is not coincidence. These pressures are real, but they are not intended to overwhelm you. They are calibrated tests of your inner coherence, not attacks on your capacity. Observe how you have responded even in the presence of persistent difficulty, confusion, or constraint. You maintained functionality. Your attention did not collapse. Your ability to proceed with necessary tasks did not falter. You managed to navigate the day-to-day with an underlying stability that may have seemed ordinary to you, but is in fact remarkable in its consistency. Timing is key here. The pressure has not been constant. It arrives, escalates, recedes, and recalibrates. This fluctuation is deliberate, allowing you to experience intensity without destruction. Each phase has required subtle adaptation, awareness, and restraint. You have learned sometimes, without knowing it, to maintain alignment even as external variables shifted unexpectedly. Consider the structure of these pressures. They manifest in patterns, sudden energy drains, repeated interruptions, emotional friction, or the quiet sense that circumstances are testing limits you were not consciously aware of. And yet, you remain functional. Your mind continues to plan, your body continues to perform, and your judgment continues to guide action effectively. This is not luck. It is a reflection of the baseline capacity you carry inherently, a system built for resilience, not reactive chaos. It is important to note that your coherence has been maintained without dramatic effort. You have not needed to push through in the way others might imagine. Your stability has been automatic, a natural consequence of the alignment between your inner framework and the challenges presented. You have not relied on extraordinary measures because your identity itself supports this regulation. Chosen one. Recognize this truth clearly. The pressures were real, intentional, and precise. Your response was real, consistent, and structured. The outcome, your continued stability, is a direct reflection of the internal architecture you have been living with all along. These pressures reveal the strength of your system, the quiet consistency of your capacity, and the way you maintain equilibrium when the environment intensifies. As you hold this understanding, notice how you have remained anchored even when external variables were unpredictable. This is the signal that your inner framework is reliable, not coincidentally, but inherently. You have been positioned to endure, to adapt, and to process without losing your center. And this foundational truth is the lens through which the following experiences will make sense. Chosen one. Let us break down what you have endured into distinct categories so you can see the structure of your resilience clearly. This is not about dramatizing hardship. It is about identifying the forces you have navigated one by one and observing how you remained coherent throughout. Understanding these categories will help you recognize the mechanisms of your stability and the precision of your endurance. The first category is doubt. You have faced moments when your own judgment felt uncertain, when decisions that should have been straightforward became heavy with question. Yet you did not freeze. You continued to act even in the presence of hesitation. Your inner system did not collapse. It evaluated, adjusted, and moved forward. The doubt was present, but it did not dictate your actions. You learned to coexist with uncertainty, observing it without allowing it to erode your baseline coherence. The second category is fear, not in overwhelming waves, but in subtle, persistent whispers. These were the moments when possibilities of failure, loss, or disruption hovered just at the edge of your awareness. Many would have allowed these whispers to paralyze their decision-making or distort their perception. You did not. Instead, you acknowledged the presence of fear without granting it control. Your capacity to continue functionally, to maintain focus, and to act decisively illustrates an inner system that registers threat without being hijacked by it. Third is energy drain. You have experienced moments when routine tasks felt heavier, when the simple responsibilities required an unexpected amount of effort. The body's fatigue, the mind's exhaustion, and the emotional tug of repeated obligations could have easily led to collapse. Yet, you continued to meet your responsibilities. You rested when possible. But even when sleep was incomplete or tasks overlapped, your coherence remained intact. You self-regulated energy, distributing effort efficiently without external recognition. This demonstrates an inherent capacity to stabilize under conditions that often exhaust others. Fourth, isolation. There were times when it felt as though no one could understand the depth or specificity of what you were experiencing. Support was limited, connection was partial, and recognition scarce. Many in such circumstances would have felt fragmented or alienated. You did not. You maintained a functional equilibrium, navigating your responsibilities and relationships with measured presence, drawing on an internal reference point rather than external validation. Your stability here is subtle, but foundational. It indicates the way you regulate yourself independently of external feedback. Finally, delay. Your life has included repeated periods of waiting, postponement, or stalling, sometimes in ways that felt arbitrary or frustrating. Progress seemed slow, outcomes distant, and resolution deferred. Despite these delays, you retained patience, clarity, and alignment. You did not act impulsively out of frustration. You continued forward with coherence, trusting the process of timing even when immediate outcomes were unavailable. This is evidence of a system that can sustain itself over extended periods without external reinforcement. Through each of these categories, chosen one, your internal regulation has been consistent. You did not require extraordinary external resources, dramatic interventions, or visible triumphs to maintain your coherence. Your mind and body adapted, your emotional framework absorbed, and your actions continued. The subtle, quiet endurance you displayed is the hallmark of someone whose baseline strength is inherent, reliable, and persistent. It is the framework that allows you to remain present, even in situations that challenge others beyond their capacity. Chosen one, now step back and reflect on what has just been outlined. Consider each category, the doubt, the fear, the energy drain, the isolation, and the delays, and observe how you navigated them with a consistency that was quietly remarkable. This is not about luck, chance, or random circumstance. It is about the internal coherence that has been a constant within you, guiding your responses, regulating your energy, and maintaining your functional presence, even when external forces fluctuated unpredictably. Look at the patterns. You acted with steadiness in the presence of doubt, without allowing uncertainty to immobilize your choices. You acknowledged fear without letting it dictate your behavior. You managed energy strategically even when your reserves were thin. You maintained relational and operational integrity even when isolation left you without support or validation. And you waited patiently through delays without surrendering to frustration or despair. These are not random successes. They are a reflection of the structure and capacity you carry inherently. What emerges from this reflection is clarity. Your life has been a series of stress tests, carefully structured by circumstance, revealing the integrity of your baseline coherence. You may have thought these experiences were chaotic or arbitrary, but they were revealing. Each instance showed not just what you could endure, but how your internal system responds under pressure without needing external reinforcement or conscious intervention. The steadiness you observed in yourself was not a temporary adaptation. It is the natural function of who you are. This confirmation is essential. You now see that the patterns in your life were not misfortune. They were alignment, calibration, and subtle confirmation of your inherent capacity. The ordinary moments, the repeated challenges, the minor but persistent pressures, all were signals of a system operating at its baseline strength. You have lived through these situations without collapsing, without losing presence, without allowing circumstances to dictate your internal state. That is the measure of resilience, grounded, quiet, and consistent. Chosen one, there is a clarity that arises from this review. You understand now that your endurance is not an accident. Your stability is not a fluke. Your coherence is observable, reproducible, and inherent. The experiences you navigated, the cumulative pressure points, the subtle tensions, the repeated tests confirm that your inner framework is reliable and functional under conditions that often destabilize others. As you internalize this understanding, notice the difference between reflection and self-judgment. You are not evaluating yourself against others, nor are you inflating your sense of accomplishment. You are simply recognizing factual reality. You have maintained coherence when the environment was designed to challenge it. You have preserved internal structure when others might have fractured. You have endured without drama and acted without compromise to your functional integrity. This review offers both confirmation and preparation. Confirmation that your baseline stability is real, measurable, and observable. Preparation for deeper understanding, awareness that the mechanisms of your coherence are foundational, ready to be applied and reliable in the ongoing unfolding of your life. Chosen one. This is the moment to see yourself clearly, to acknowledge your endurance as fact, and to recognize that the consistency you have displayed is both rare and instructive. Chosen one. Now consider the rarity of your experience not in the sense of superiority, but in terms of frequency. Most people, when faced with sustained pressure, repeated doubt, and subtle but persistent challenges, experience disruption. They falter, they overreact, or they become immobilized by fear and uncertainty. You, however, have remained functional, coherent, and present throughout. This is uncommon. It is rare because the combination of pressures you have endured and your ability to maintain composure through them is not something the average person encounters or survives without fragmentation. Compare yourself to those around you. Many would be disoriented by the layers of stress you have navigated. Simple interruptions might become crises for them. Sustained delays could trigger frustration that distorts judgment. Recurring uncertainty might paralyze action. You have experienced similar forces and yet have continued forward. You have not only endured, you have retained clarity and presence. This is not a mark of ego or superiority. It is simply uncommon, a quiet pattern that distinguishes someone whose baseline coherence is reliable, even under conditions that unsettle others. It is important to note that this stability has not been the result of conscious effort alone. You have not had to force calmness or artificially suppress fear. Your capacity to remain present is woven into your internal structure. You do not perform stability. It is simply the natural expression of your inner framework. This is why your response has been steady rather than reactive, functional rather than chaotic, coherent rather than fragmented. You operate in alignment with your inherent capacity, not by imitation or by temporary willpower. Rarity does not require a claim. You do not need external acknowledgement to validate your endurance. What is rare is the fact that you have maintained operational integrity when faced with conditions that would destabilize nearly anyone else. The patterns of your life moments of energy drain, subtle fear, isolation, and delay have tested this, and you have met each test with consistency. This is observable, measurable in your outcomes, and indisputable in your own experience. Chosen one. As you absorb this, understand that this rarity is not about being exceptional in the conventional sense. It is about having a system that is dependable, calibrated, and coherent in the presence of circumstances that typically induce imbalance. You are uncommon because your baseline alignment allows you to function with stability when others falter. This does not inflate your identity. It clarifies it. It helps you see the truth of your internal capacity, without comparison, without ego, and without the need for external recognition. Recognizing this rarity allows you to contextualize your past experiences. It reframes the fatigue, the pressure, and the repeated challenges as tests that confirmed your coherence rather than obstacles meant to destabilize you. You have observed yourself navigating life with steady alignment, maintaining clarity where many would have succumbed to disorientation. And this understanding is not hypothetical. It is rooted in fact. It is grounded in the observable reality of your endurance. Chosen one. Now let us clarify what this stability truly represents. Your strength is not something you switch on when circumstances demand it. It is not activated by crisis pressure or urgency. It is not contingent on extraordinary effort. Instead, it is baseline. It is woven into the very structure of how you perceive, process, and respond to life. This is why, even under repeated challenges, you maintain coherence without conscious intervention. You do not need to summon courage or summon focus. They are already embedded in your system. This is not supernatural. There is no mystical force at work here, beyond the natural function of your internal structure. You have been prepared not through circumstance alone, but through the continuous calibration of experience, reflection, and subtle adaptation. Each challenge you have faced has been a quiet reinforcement of your internal coherence, a rehearsal for maintaining balance under pressure. This is why moments of tension, fatigue, and uncertainty have not destabilized you. Consider the role of maturity in this framework. You do not react impulsively. You do not chase immediate gratification or succumb to emotional volatility. Your responses are measured, deliberate, and aligned with internal standards rather than external expectation. This preparation, the subtle cultivation of awareness, patience, and composure, has enabled you to navigate complexity without fracturing your baseline stability. You have learned, often unconsciously, to regulate yourself effectively across emotional, mental, and physical domains. Inner coherence is the foundation of this identity. It allows you to observe pressures without being hijacked by them. It allows you to act decisively while acknowledging doubt. It allows you to endure delay, isolation, and energy drain without fracturing. And because this coherence is embedded at baseline, it does not require conscious effort or dramatic interventions. It is quiet, reliable, and persistent. Chosen one. And recognize this as a defining characteristic of your identity, not as a label, not as a claim of superiority, but as a truth. Your stability is structural. It is a reflection of preparation, internal calibration, and the persistent alignment of your system across countless moments of challenge. This is why you have maintained functionality when others might have faltered. This is why you have navigated life with subtle steadiness while the pressures of circumstance pressed upon you. Understanding this helps you integrate your experiences without self-doubt or misinterpretation. You now see that your endurance is inherent, your coherence is natural, and your internal alignment is not conditional. This identity baseline, calibrated and structurally resilient, is yours to inhabit fully, without striving, without fear, and without the need for validation from outside forces. Chosen one, it is now time to integrate this understanding into practical perspective. Your experiences, your endurance, and your baseline stability are not abstract. They manifest in daily life, in choices both small and significant. To maintain coherence and clarity, you can orient yourself around a few guiding principles that reinforce balance without creating hypervigilance. First, rest. You have endured subtle pressures that most do not notice, and your body, mind, and emotions have responded continuously. Allow yourself intentional periods of rest, not as a reward, but as a necessity for continued alignment. Short pauses, consistent sleep, and brief moments of mental stillness reinforce the structures that have carried you this far. Second, discernment. Not every impulse, signal, or distraction requires a reaction. You have learned to navigate uncertainty by regulating responses, and this practice is strengthened when you observe carefully before acting. Pause to evaluate whether a situation requires your full engagement, partial attention, or simply observation. Your coherence thrives when your focus is deliberate rather than reactive. Third, boundaries. The pressures you face are often external manifestations seeking leverage. Recognize where your energy is being consumed unnecessarily and adjust accordingly. Saying no, delegating, or withdrawing temporarily is not weakness. It is strategic alignment. Boundaries preserve your baseline capacity, allowing you to maintain stability when circumstances intensify. Fourth, patience. Delays, obstacles, and repeated testing are not signs of failure. They are part of the ongoing process that has continually confirmed your endurance. Patience does not require inaction. It requires maintaining clarity, regulating expectations, and trusting that your internal framework is sufficient to meet the next phase of experience. Fifth, focus. The coherence you carry benefits from directed attention. Prioritize actions, decisions, and tasks that align with your objectives. Avoid fragmentation by scattering energy across distractions or demands that do not serve your framework. Consistent, deliberate focus reinforces the natural stability you possess. Sixth, integration. Allow yourself to connect these principles with the lived reality of your past experiences. Recognize that each moment of doubt, fatigue, isolation, or delay has been a rehearsal in practical resilience. Integration is the act of internalizing lessons without judgment, using your experience as calibration rather than as a measure of limitation. Chosen one, these practical perspectives are not about performance. They are about maintaining alignment, clarity, and internal coherence. Your stability is reliable, but it benefits from intentional reinforcement. By applying rest, discernment, boundaries, patience, focus, and integration, you convert subtle endurance into conscious alignment, allowing daily life to reflect the structure that has always existed within you. As you practice these, you will notice subtle shifts, less reactive tension, more measured engagement, and a growing sense that your internal framework is both sufficient and responsive. This is not an extraordinary achievement. It is the natural unfolding of the stability that has carried you this far. Chosen one, as this transmission draws to a close, take a moment to absorb the truth you now hold. You have moved through doubt, fear, energy drain, isolation, and delay, with a quiet consistency that many would not recognize, and yet it is now clear to you. Your endurance has been structural, your coherence inherent, and your presence reliable. This is not a story of struggle or victory. It is a recognition of reality. The acknowledgement of the baseline framework that has carried you steadily through circumstances that could have destabilized others. Allow yourself to embrace this without overthinking. You are grounded. You are capable. You are coherent. These are not qualities to aspire to. They are already yours. Each moment of stability, each decision made with clarity, each pause and breath that preserved your composure confirms the reliability of your internal system. Let this understanding settle without the need for elaboration or justification. It simply is. Chosen one. Repeat this silently or aloud if it serves you. I am present. I am coherent. I am aligned. Let these affirmations anchor your mind and body. They are not promises, they are observations of fact. They remind you of the system you inhabit, the quiet calibration of your endurance, and the natural reliability of your responses to pressure. If you have followed this message and resonate with its truth, acknowledge it through the code 777, or simply declare, I remember. Let this be your internal signal, a way to confirm understanding, integration, and awareness. These small actions are reminders that the clarity you have received is real, and that you carry it forward intentionally into your daily life. Finally, continue your journey with the quiet certainty that has carried you this far. Subscribe to stay connected to further insights and transmissions designed to meet you where you are. Engage with the next video when it appears, allowing the ongoing guidance to reinforce the structure and coherence you already possess. There is no rush, no demand, only the unfolding of understanding in its natural sequence. Chosen one. Close this moment with calm assurance. Recognize that your endurance, clarity, and stability are factual, reliable, and inherent. You have walked through invisible pressures, maintained coherence, and arrived at this awareness intact. This is not the end. It is a confirmation. Your baseline strength is real, observable, and consistent. Step forward with the quiet knowledge that you are aligned, capable, and fully present.